what I'm going to work on today is making some marten nesting boxes. Now there's a study that they did in Quebec, and they have that on the Fur Harvester's website. But basically you make a regular, what looks like a regular marten box, obviously without the slots in the side, and it's completely closed on all 6 sides, and then you put a 2-inch hole in it. And that is so that the female can get in there, but nothing else. The male marten, I believe, won't be able to get in there either, but it's mostly to keep the fisher and the owls out, because those prey on marten. So you're supposed to put these boxes 3 meters up in the tree, which is what's that, 9 feet, just over 9 feet. So and you're supposed to put them more than 1 kilometer apart, because apparently the female marten will not go more than 500 meters from their nesting boxes, and they're very territorial. So you put them about 700 meters away from your trail, so that you can harvest their young each fall without ever catching the female, because apparently they can live up to 15 years. And if you do this, within a couple of years your catch should go up quite a bit. And because of the area I'm in, it's been heavily logged in the past, and and it's still being logged, but there's lots of areas where they're letting grow naturally, which is better for all sorts of animals. And there's lots of prey species for the marten around here. And you know, it's good for quite a few animals around here. It's just that the marten typically need over mature coniferous forest to find their dens, which is typically hollowed out trees from woodpeckers. So, you know, and obviously you find that in mature forests, which the forests around here are mostly pretty young. There's some areas where they're more mature, and those are the areas where I'm catching marten. And unfortunately I've caught a few females, so I'm gonna try and do what I can on this trap line to increase my catch and avoid catching the females. So I'm gonna build these nesting boxes, and I'm gonna put them every just over 1 kilometer apart, and I'm gonna keep them 700 meters away from my trail. Try and do that as close to the exact number as possible to keep the numbers the highest, because I know the prey populations can support it. And so these are things that I'm gonna try and do on my trap line, as well as you know, whenever you're clearing trail or doing whatever, you got branches to deal with, rather than just throwing them every which way. If you pile them up nicely, then that creates habitat for the prey species as well, you know, like snowshoe hare and mice and squirrels and all that stuff. They use it, and I know that for a fact because I've done it. And you know, I've seen old brush piles that I made and had rabbits run out of them and everything. So you know, these are things that you can do on your trap line. And you know, I'm no expert on this by any means. I'm going off of other studies and that have been proven, so I'm going to try and implement these strategies on my trap line. And another thing you should do is any of your leftover bait, your beavers and stuff, is that about 300 meters away from your marten nesting boxes, you should high up in a tree so the wolves don't come and get it. You should hang leftover beaver carcasses to help them, you know, help them with their food supply during the nesting season, which I believe starts in April. So, you know, these are things you can do, and the reason you want to keep them about 300 meters away is to avoid the fishers, which will also end up feeding on them for sure, from coming too close to the marten nesting boxes and you know, trying to dig them out and all that. It's important that you make them the right size, which I believe is supposed to be 6 inches by 6 inches by 14 to 16 inches on the inside. If they're too big, then the marten won't be able to keep its young warm, and if it's too small, well, then it just won't be able to set up inside. So like I said, I'm kind of quoting a study here from Quebec. I don't have it in front of me. I'm just kind of going off what I took from it. So I'll show you guys as I start to build these marten boxes, or marten nesting boxes, and as I put them up through the season. Okay, so I've made my first marten nesting box. Okay, so I decided to make this one vertical with the hole at the top, and you see I put a little kind of roof on it just to keep the rain out. That was kind of my idea. And also I screwed the roof on as opposed to nail it, just so I can go along in August. You know, I also read this, you go along in August and just out of curiosity, you can climb up there, unscrew it, and check if it's been being used. You'll be able to tell because it'll be full of marten hair and sawdust and stuff. It says don't worry if birds or squirrels use it, because the marten will take care of that. Now, this is exactly a 2-inch hole. You know, I got my tape measure here. I got a hole saw. So I thought maybe it looked a little small, but you know, this is a male marten carcass, and as you can see, the head goes in just fine, and obviously the rest of the body will be no problem. So you know, just thought I'd show you that. The other thing is too, is I screwed this plank to the back, and then I started a screw in the top and bottom. I do the same thing on my marten boxes. Okay, these are my marten boxes, and you can see I just start a screw, because I screw them to the trees, and so I just started with the drill, and then I just bring a screwdriver along. Now obviously these go a lot higher in the trees than the regular marten boxes do, and it also says to be sure to put them in deciduous trees only, because the marten spends a lot of time hanging around by its nest, so the sap from spruce trees can really damage the fur. So for the nesting boxes, you want to make sure you put them in deciduous trees only. This box here is going to be close to my camp. I don't trap close to my camp anyways for marten, because of I will trap mink close to the camp, because I can put those sets on the water, but I have a dog, so I don't trap too close to the camp anyways. Not to mention, I always have beavers hanging from trees near my camp, because I like to watch the birds and squirrels eat on them. So you know, maybe in the future I'll get to see have a resident marten that comes and feeds outside my window as well. That would be real nice. So this one's going to go up near my camp, and I will build a few more today. So when I go tomorrow to check my traps, then I'll go off my trail and I'll put up a couple more boxes. So obviously a good consideration to make is how you're going to get up the tree. You can carry a small ladder. 9 feet isn't too high, you know, you'd only need an 8-foot ladder. I happen to have a tree climbing spurs, so I'll make use of them. Now I'm about 150 meters from water, which is a good consideration. Like I said, this is my my home, my camp box. I'm only about 100 meters, less than 100 meters from the camp. I'm in a deciduous tree, but I'm in a carnivorous area, okay? I'm pretty sure they do prefer carnivorous areas. This is also hilly. I'm in a bit of a valley. Don't know if it matters so much for the nesting boxes, but I would say this is a good area to trap a marten. So, because I am close to camp, I do have my drill with me, but I could just as easily do this with a screwdriver. This is the southeastern side of the tree, so that it'll get a bit of sun when the sun comes up in the morning. That'll help keep them warmer in early April. Yeah, so my battery died when I was up the tree there. But anyways, just kind of a recap on the nesting boxes is, you know, it's a good thing to do for sure, especially if you're in a logging area where there's younger forests. Now a recap on kind of the details, you know, hole should be about 2 inches, inside diameter 6 by 6, length about 14 to 16. The top, you can do it vertical or horizontal, and the top board should be the biggest so that it covers the seams to keep the rain out, right? And the tighter the better for better insulation. I suppose thicker boards would probably be good too. You want it near the water with alders is good. In a deciduous tree to, you know, that'll help you with keeping the resin out of the fur. And about 9 feet up, you know, and you know, I recommend that everybody that sees the need for this, that, you know, you should do it. Even if you don't hit the marten that hard, you know, it's they're an animal that's would have covered you know, most of the boreal forest at one time, and in some areas they're just their numbers aren't too good anymore, and that's would be because of logging. I would say mostly. Sometimes because of trapping if people are over harvesting. But you know, as trappers, this is part of our job as stewards of the land to help all the animals that we can with their habitat and keeping the numbers in check. And you know, around logging and everything, it's with the beavers, you know, you're supposed to be targeting the ones near the roads and keeping the roads open, helping them that way, because otherwise people just shoot the beavers and just let them rot, eh? So that's a waste of natural resource. And it's better if you do it in the fall and winter time to you know, when they're prime, because loggers or whatever, or hunters that want to use the roads, they'll shoot them at whatever time of the year that they and then destroy the dam. That kills all the muskrats too. If you can keep things in check, you know, there's lots of things you can do. So I'm a fairly new trapper. You know, I think this is my 6th year trapping, so I'm by no means an expert, but these are things that I think are important to keep in mind, that we're not just out there harvesting fur-bearing animals. I think that's probably the smallest part of the job. The biggest part of the job is keeping an eye on your trap line and the surrounding area and keeping things in check. And, you know, trying to keep all the animals happy as much as they can. And you know, like, I think trapping is a great way to do that because, you know, especially with muskrats and beavers and stuff, you know, when you go in and trap them in the fall time, I think the ones that remain have a much better time for the winter. So, you know, this is something I feel strongly about, and I think if you thought about it, you would too.